Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings. Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast from Practical E-Commerce, hosted by entrepreneur Eric Bandholz.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the table from me, Jimmy.
What's up? How are you? That intro kills me, man. Every time I hear it, it's even better in person.
Yeah, you just got to get straight to the point. No one cares what your last name is anyways.
Nah.
Who are you?
Well, I am the CEO, founder of a little company called Sendlane. We're a unified email, SMS, and reviews platform for e-commerce merchants.
Look at that. That's not the first time you said that.
No. Said a lot of times. A lot of times.
We're going to skip the founder story. Apparently, you've been on 5 podcasts a day or something like that. So there's plenty of podcasts out there. I'm going to try to get some golden nuggets from Jimmy. I wonder, how... Should I bring the drama into it? There's been a lot of drama.
Let's talk about it all.
Let's talk about the drama.
Why not, man?
All right, for anyone, if you're not on Twitter, or X as they call it now, you've got to be on it. It's a great community. You're a really active Twitter user as well. Has that always been the case, or was that kind of Sendlane as well?
Yeah, so I've had my Twitter account or X account since 2009, but all I used to do is do garbage posting, retweets and garbage stuff for years on years. Yeah. It was about, when was it? I actually know the day was November of 2022 that I rejoined. So I'm not that new.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that I'm not that old, meaning I've only been on there for less than a year now and just focused on what I needed to focus on.
Yeah. Let's talk about your Twitter strategy. Yeah. What is it? How do you come in and...
Yeah. So I'll kind of zap back a little bit and I'll tell you the way that the Twitter strategy, or actually the social strategy, came into place. As we all know, my competitor is Klaviyo, right? That's my number one competitor in the market. And what I did was I sat back as I had produced this great software and I knew that I could compete, but I didn't know how to get into the market. And part of breaking into the market is getting acceptance and getting people in there. And I knew that I had to do something. And I kind of looked at Klaviyo and said, look, on the platform side, there's not a lot I can pick on over there. Then I look at the ecosystem side. Their partners love them. They've got a good ecosystem. But there's this third pillar I look at SaaS that's really important, which is the content and education and the brand and the face of the company. What's actually going out and connecting those pieces together to the community. And I saw that as a lackluster point or a lack of availability in the market. And I looked at that and said, well, that's their weak point. I know I can do it. So my background comes in. I used to be a content creator. I used to teach people a lot of stuff. So I said, I was an email marketer. B, I used to own an e-commerce store. And C, I can talk about this stuff all day long because I know how to do it because I did it every day. Let me go into market and just start talking about it. And that's kind of what I did. So the strategy was very simple. How do I get in front of everyone? Just make enough noise till someone recognizes you, till someone tells someone else, and hopefully things start to work. And that's kind of how it started. So I started on LinkedIn a little bit, saw a little traction, and then I jumped over to Twitter because I had more difficulty over there because you got to connect to people or got to get them to follow you. But on Twitter, on LinkedIn. But on Twitter, you got this whole For You thing, and it just kind of feeds and populates. So if you say something really smart and enough people like it or share it, then suddenly you take off and show up in other people's stuff. So I got on there and I started to hammer down on Twitter and start to get involved, right? My goal was not to go and just post, right? That's the clearest thing about this marketing strategy. It's not. I actually have a cool chart. I use a tool called Black Magic, and it has all this charting and all of this stuff. I actually do 4 times more replies and commenting than I do posting.
What is Black Magic?
I don't know. It's just a tool that connects to your Twitter and it shows you all these insights. I can connect. Yeah, I can connect on your page and look at how many times you've interacted with my posts, and how many times when you followed me or didn't follow me, or when you liked something or commented, and you can start to build a little bit of a story.
How much is that? Is it
$7 a month?
$7 a month?
So maybe 60. I don't know. It's It's very cheap for what it can do. It can post your stuff. It can do analytics. It sends you a daily digest. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So as an analytical dude, I think about myself like that. I like to see the numbers and the data so I can start figuring out how to analyze that. Right. But yeah, that's the tool I used. Yeah, man.
So you came in what's funny is when we joined Twitter back in 2009, because I think I joined in 2009 as well. it was like you follow, unfollow was kind of the strategy, and you set up like bots. I would just auto follow people and then unfollow. This is like, in hindsight, this is like the dumbest way to do social media ever. It's just like follow for follow. So were there like a few key accounts that you followed to get started? How did you know which accounts? Like, because if I'm completely green, I'm trying to go into a market, like I don't even know where to begin. Like,
yeah. So I did the most rudimentary thing. I literally went into the search bar and I would just type in keywords like email marketing, e-commerce, Klaviyo, Shopify, whatever it is. And I would just read. And anytime I saw something relevant, I would like it and make sure that I made a thoughtful post back and at least tried to contribute to that post. And I just kept doing it as much as I can. I still do it today. I'll go and look for these things. But it almost became a habit inside of me to go do this each and every day. And I always say, like, it's not about posting. I need to post 2-3 times a day. But the real goal is engaging with the community and like giving them actual thoughtful things, because the way that they believe you is not through the post. They believe you through the response more often. Right. And that's where I found that engagement was really important.
So when you say you post 2 times a day, that's just like original content to the ether. And then you'll have, you said like 4 times the amount of replies. So you're replying to 12 or 15 people. And that doesn't include replies to people who reply on your post, or would it?
Does not. That does not. That's just going out externally and finding those places to respond and add value.
Yeah. And then as you communicate with more people, you get to know more people, then what is your following strategy? If there is a strategy, or is it just...
Literally is no strategy, man. Okay. What I'll do is I'll look at your content, I'll look at who you are and say, hey, he or she looks interesting, I'll follow him.
Yeah.
I have no reason. I don't have any like loyalty. Like, obviously I'm not going to follow my competitors, but like, well, maybe I follow some of them, but like, I don't really spend as much time there. I'm really just focused on like, hey, is this someone that I would like to see in my network? Is this someone who would like to hear about their tweets or their posts? And, you know, that's basically the follow strategy. There's no real strong strategy here. I think it was more understanding what it meant to be engaged. It goes all the way back to like my early days, like something I don't talk about a lot, but like something that I did way back in the day. I would say my first like weird business venture I did in college was that I produced a physical product. So I'm into cars a lot. And back then when I was into a little bit more of like the Volkswagens and different things. And I used to modify them, and I would have this cold air intake on it. And that's where you get like cold air from the outside and stuff. And I designed something called a heat shield, basically, that I would put, it was a layer. And I went to Lowe's and bought a bunch of stuff. And I created this little shield thing, right? And what I learned there was, I didn't know how to sell it, but I was part of this great community. I was part of this thing called VW Vortex, which is Volkswagen like community enthusiast board. And I used to sell on that platform with this tool, $55 that I had this like little thing that I created. And I sold a bunch of them on there. And I think I apply a lot of those same things that I did back then, which is just become known in the community, get connected with the people. You don't have to do business or even like each other to be connected, but you can always input and grade, because the public is generally watching you. And though you may be thinking you're talking to a one-on-one person, and a lot of times there's always a couple hundred people, or not thousands, reading that post and lurking and understanding. And it's pretty cool how that effect works out into the market. So knowing a lot of those things, I would say, based around like my background, that's kind of what I've been applying to it. Now, you asked like, is there a pivotal moment? So I would say that my pivotal moment was not, and this is kind of weird, this is where in real life intersects with like social. I wouldn't say that I would had a pivotal moment if I followed somebody. It would be much more of a pivotal moment of how I was introduced or found by people. What I mean by that is, it was actually here in Austin in, what was it, January? When was that ice storm this year? Was it January?
No, there's been so many.
I know, but I think there was a really bad one where like planes were canceled or whatever. Yeah. It was the Whaleys event, Triple Whales event, right?
Oh, yeah.
So and honestly, I paid my way into speaking on that stage because I knew there was a great group. But the bigger thing I knew about that group was, you know, the joke was D2C Twitter is here. Yeah. Right. And I said, dude, I got to pay my way to be up there. So I went to Triple Whale. I was like, how much did you need? Just take my money, right? And I threw their money at him, and they gave me a spot. They gave me like a 3 or 4 p.m. And I went there and I said, what's the thing I can go into this conversation to establish my authority? It's not going in there and talking about abandoned carts and flows, or like talking about like email marketing. I need to go talk about something that I know that most people don't know. And if I talk about it, they're just going to look at me with their eyes crossed, but respect what I'm talking about. That was deliverability, right? It's one of my superpowers, but I don't really recognize it because, as you know, like, you know, beards, like you probably know way more than I would ever know. To you, it's basic, but to me, it's like mind blowing every time you say something, right? So I realized that was my thing. So when I went up there, I made sure to deliver a great talk on that. That opened up people. The people that were influenced in that room saw that, started to follow me, started to repost about it, and like it started to snowball. And then I followed that on, and this is where my in real life and social strategy come in, by literally attending as many events, dinners, and events that I could across the entire world these last like 6 to 9 months. So like, it's not just one thing, it's being everywhere, right? And being in front of that community, being involved with them, buying them food, being at their events, being at their parties, and really just getting in there and communicating. Like I always set a goal, like when I go to this dinner, and I'm going tonight to a founder's dinner, I'm gonna walk around the room and try to shake everyone's hand and just say hello. I don't want your business yet, but I want you to be in the ether that Jimmy Kim came by at least and said hello to me. And when I'm in that prospecting mode of like, I got to switch, I just want them to think about me, right? Yeah. I may not be the perfect tool for you, but at least you thought about me. And that's really the goal here because, I sell software. It's not like, a physical product. It's not as impulsive. It's not as cheap. And it's a real big change in a business. So like, I think humanize it. And then you can hear the great content, the different things that I talk about, the community aspect. And really, then it just becomes a choice of, do I want to go deal with it, right? So like, I think I remove some of the barriers of trust ultimately when I do what I do.
Yeah. At that conference, your boy is it Avi?
Avi, yeah.
Yeah. They were singing your praises as well. Was that? Did you slip in?
Well, Avi wasn't a customer back then. They're a customer now. What conference are you talking about?
No, the D2C at the Triple Whaleys.
No, Triple Whales. I think they mentioned us, but maybe they weren't even customers. Nothing.
No, someone on stage was mentioning you guys as like a great partner. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
You must be thinking of someone else. It's not us. It wasn't me. Avi just became a customer in like June. So
really?
It was definitely not them. I'd never even met Ron until Triple Whale.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I went up to Ron and Moise and Sharma and I introduced myself and just said hello.
Yeah. Maybe he's talking about, well, clearly he was talking about someone else.
Yeah, it wasn't me. No, It wasn't me, not back then.
Okay, cool. So, like Rabah with Triple Whale, I feel like he almost like he blazed the pathway to this because they did such an amazing job at Triple Whale.
Yep.
And getting immersed with the community and the events they put on and stuff like that. So you're moving here to Austin, Texas. Is that for work? Do you have any team members here, or is it just you want to be ingrained in the community here?
There's a lot of reasons, man. It starts with I think there's no lie about taxes obviously being a big thought process behind it. I think about the community. That's really important. I'm in tech, so Austin has a better tech scene than San Diego by far. And then really, I'm just looking for a change. I'm a East Coaster who went West Coast, and now I'm looking to move to Central. I want to experience different cultures.
Yeah. Where in the East Coast?
I'm from Washington, D.C. metro area.
Okay.
So like Maryland, right? So I grew up in the governmental 9-to-5 bubble.
Yeah.
I hated that. I hated that. Yeah, it was terrible. And I rolled out of there, went over to the West Coast where we went to the complete opposite side, which is like shorts and flip-flops, which is great. Yeah. But then I'm looking for a little bit more edge. And, even with Sendlane, building Sendlane, when we started, we built it in San Diego and we're doing it in person, just like most people. It was incredibly hard to just get talent, like just to find people to work for you because tech wasn't a thing there, right?
Yeah.
So I think about my future and I think here, and then I combine that with my kids. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old. So I look at him and say, I better displace them now if I don't want to screw them up for the rest of their lives. So I got to get them to somewhere.
You're going to screw them up no matter what.
I know,
that's the one thing
but I feel like I could do better if I get him to a place before and don't disrupt him when she's like hitting puberty and 13 years old or whatever they are.
I'll tell you what school, after we hit record, I'll tell you what schools you should look into for your kids. I want to go back to Twitter and kind of wrap up. There's been some good Twitter drama in regards to SMS companies. And I feel like, I don't know if you came in after that, November, it might have been after all that drama, but was that going on when you were on the platform? And then how do you navigate that when some of your, really it was like 2 of your competitors were I want to say throwing mud at each other, but they were throwing mud at each other.
I think that they both have their own positives and negatives and their responses and angles. I think that, it was kind of I felt like it was a one-sided mud throwing though on Twitter because the other side, like one side wasn't as socially like connected. So like they weren't really responding and it was one person. So like, I would say that you're seeing one side of the story versus both sides of the story. And we don't know what both sides of the story. We can see and articulate based around what we see. But I think that this is the power of having a face and a brand where this side was able to speak their story and control the narrative while the other side wasn't. Yeah. Now, as a competitor, I think it's wonderful, right? Like, look, feuding and battling and drama is what sinks companies. If they're trying to grow and they can't internalize, they agree and become something, it doesn't work. And for me, I appreciate it. Like, to go ahead and battle it all out. I'm not going to get involved in these battles. I'm too grown up for this. I got things to do, but like, let him battle away. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it. I'm sure they'll all turn to me at one point or another and start looking at me, because I'm the displacement guy, right? I'm the guy who comes to all of them and says, I'm going to take your customer and bring him from another platform and another platform. We're going to bring 3 platforms into one. That's what Sendlane is, and that's where we displace and we kind of anger everybody. So I would say I'm just creating more enemies in the market, so they'll eventually attack me.
I think it reminds me of, like, I'm getting sued right now for the ADA compliance.
Sure.
And one of the things is, like, if you don't respond, you pretty much lose by default.
Yeah.
And, almost like the importance of being where your customers are. Now, it's not to say your customers are necessarily on Twitter. They could be on YouTube. They could be on TikTok. They could be on Instagram and Meta. But you have to be there. You have to be out there and see what they're saying so that you can engage with them. You may not win. You could still go to court and still lose, but at least you're going to be able to defend yourself. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who, like, kind of bury their head in the sand, or maybe they just buy their ads and they don't want to build that relationship with their customer. And, certainly there's strategies for all companies, but there's a little bit of risk there that you have to accept and kind of be prepared for that.
Yeah, well, I would say that in this market, especially in this e-commerce, direct-to-consumer, this brand, the market is very social. And what I mean by the market, they don't buy products or make decisions because they had this research and thought. They'll go to you and be like, hey, what are you using for this? And you'll be like, blah, blah, blah. You happy? They're like, yeah, it's cool. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to use that too. It's kind of how the buying decision kind of works in this market quite often. And it's kind of interesting. And my thought process and understanding of that was, well, you got to get yourself involved in what we call the middle of the funnel. And that's what I call it internally. Like, we don't talk about the top of the funnel at my company. We talk about the middle of the funnel, which is the community, the people, because those are the decision makers. And that's where the conversations are being held.
Yeah.
So,
like you said, you were in e-com before. How would you do that middle of the funnel when you have thousands, like thousands and thousands and thousands of customers or potential customers versus your current industry where, maybe you just have a couple thousand total? How would you be able to develop that middle of the funnel with so many different people?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that people are doing it now. I mean, we did it back then. I mean, we did it through, localized events, and we did it through our Instagram and different places where people would just kind of follow you and congregate. I always think about community as there's a core place where people meet up, they listen to the same message, they can communicate and talk to each other, right? And I think today when you're seeing people in Facebook groups and different places and they've congregated great audiences, or you got someone like Sean Frank over there, Ridge Wallet, his identity is the brand, right? He is the brand as much as he doesn't want to admit that or not. He's the brand and people buy his product because he's cool and people like him, right? So I think that community is a little bit of everything that comes into place. And I think that anywhere you can create the centralized motion, a place where they communicate, that's your community. So I think every brand is doing some level of community. How you focus on it and make it better and make more connected and getting the two-way effect, that's the question that I always ask. How do you get that put together? And I don't think I have a right answer for anyone, because everyone has to have their own social preferences, their personal preferences, right? Yeah. And then people will follow you from there. And I know there's brands with 100,000 people on Facebook groups, right? It's shocking. You're who uses Facebook? Well, 100,000 people do to talk about this one topic.
Yeah. Yeah, or Reddit. I think Reddit is a platform that you could really build a nice audience in. What are some of the ways you screwed up on social media?
I think pausing to react is a powerful thing that I've learned in my past. What I mean by that is sometimes when you see something you don't like, because we're all going to encounter things you don't like, an attack, positive or negative, it's an attack and you may not, just sit back and think about it for a second. Just sit back, give it an extra minute before you post. Sometimes what I do is I type my response out and I just save it as a draft.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is I
want to read your drafts.
Yeah. After this. Don't look at my drafts. There's a lot of angry thoughts and tweets that I've had, and I'm no, that's not the right thing to say right now.
Yeah, that's not the battle.
But I would say that's one thing that you just have to be really mindful of and just be good at it and be real about it too. At the same time, when you fuck up, when you mess up, you gotta be able to own it and be upfront about it. It's all about narrating. Everything about social media is narrating your own story and being able to protect yourself and putting yourself in front of it. The moment you stop narrating your story, the moment you stop responding, the moment you stop controlling it, the imagination start rolling and people just start thinking about whatever they want to do it. That's when rumors start. That's where side conversations start. So my thing is always, let's get straight to the point. Let's talk about it. And if I screw it up, then I'm going to tell them I screwed up and I'm going to publicly talk about it because I don't think it's wrong to talk about it. We're humans and people understand that.
I think the other lesson in this is like, you're going to have battles eventually with people. Like, you're going to have disagreements. Your argument isn't necessarily with the person you're having to convince them. Your argument is for the person reading the discussion who doesn't know yet.
Correct.
So I think some people maybe get frustrated where it's like, I'm in this conversation battle with this person and I have to win this conversation. It's like, no, sometimes you win by making your point and then that's it. You move on with your life. And I've certainly gotten wrapped up into like flame wars from time to time. And
of course,
I think the best lesson I ever had, and I would recommend you do this if you haven't already done it, but turn off notifications for anyone who doesn't follow you. Because if they don't bother following you, their opinion is completely worthless to me.
Interesting. I like that.
And then that, like, just like, because sometimes your tweets go viral or they go outside your core audience, and it's like this message is intended to like ecom people, and then it's like, oh, it went out to like, you know, the middle class people who are struggling financially or something, and you're celebrating like a big month, and then all of a sudden they're hammering you about being rich or, you know, like whatever it is.
I get it. I know what you're saying.
Molson, I don't know if you follow Molson Hart.
Yes, I think I do.
He's got this perfect knack for always saying things that are just like abrasive, and then like they'll go beyond the intended audience. And I think you save yourself a lot of sanity by, you know, kind of turning off notifications for people who don't follow you. And then also I allow my messages open, my DMs are open, but I limit them only to people who have a blue account. So that gets most of the spam out.
But see, you're not looking for business the same way I am. So I'm the opposite. I'm like, DMs open, everybody message me, because if you're a customer or a potential person, like I want to talk to you.
How many people are actually selling you things though?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But I also get a lot inbound too. So it's like a little bit of a game I just have to deal with, right?
Yeah. It's like when the salesman also becomes the prospect.
I don't think I've had that yet. I haven't had a prospect, like someone who tried to sell me that I've turned around, but
no.
Oh,
I mean,
you
not
mean like
around,
you're looking at me? Yeah, man. Yeah, every B2B company wants to sell to me because I'm what they want to sell to. So I'm an ICP for someone else. So it's like this big circle.
Yeah. ICP, for people who don't know,
is ideal customer profile.
Yeah, I saw that for the first time and I'm like, Insane Cloud Posse? Like, what the heck does that have to do with anything?
Yeah. That's great.
Like, I don't know. I'm showing my age or something like that.
No. Software term. Sorry.
Yeah. So you guys are VC backed?
Yeah, we are.
Grow it and sell it. Is that the strategy? Grow it and IPO?
I don't know what the end goal is. I think for me, it's vision and serving that vision, and obviously getting a big core into the market eventually. I'm sure the money will come on the end, but I don't have a vision of like, I want to take it here. I just want to do what I believe. And if I do what I think we do, I think we win in the market. And when I mean win, I think there's multiple winners in the space. So I think that we get to carve up and put ourselves in that space. And there's still plenty of money for probably 10 more competitors come in the space. So
yeah. How long do you guys want to be in the red before you?
We're almost out.
Oh, really?
We're almost out. We're just a couple months away.
No shit.
Yeah, we've been working on it.
You guys spend more money.
I know, maybe. Well, I mean, it's one of those chicken and egg. We're growing really fast right now. It's tremendously fast. So it's like, do we invest it or do we continue? But it's like, I think we don't know what's about to happen in 2024, and I just want to stay really smart. So my goal is to get to a place where we can have optionality, because I don't know what's going to happen.
What is you say you're serving 3 markets. What is the long-term vision for it? Is it just deeper penetration of your customer base, or do you have further technology that you're looking to develop?
Yeah, I'm building for the unified future, right? So my pain point was not, I want to build an email marketing company or a data company. My pain point was, I'm a merchant and I got 29 stupid apps that I need to connect to my store, and I don't even remember how to log into half of them half the time, and I'm tired of them not talking to each other. And so I went to go solve that for MarTech. And being the retention marketer that I am, I'm like, well, anything that I own, all the own marketing pieces should be all under one roof, because A, it's going to solidify the data. B, you're going to clarify the attribution. And C, it's going to make my life a hell of a lot easier in order to do my work. So my future is all about unifying everything. So like, email, SMS, we've got reviews, we've got pop-ups, we've got future products coming around like loyalty and attribution and insights. And, we're just going to start bringing it all together essentially.
Yeah. How hard is it to develop so many different product offerings and feel like it's the best solution for the client?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
If it's like at a certain point, the trade-off is worth it to have 2 logins when the product is significantly different. So that sounds like a pretty big undertaking to kind of be the master of all
It is. I would say we've got product principle around that pretty strongly. So email and SMS must be best in class. It's a very simple mindset. Once we get into these other products, we focus on what we call the 80%. 80% of the people use 20% of the product. We focus on that. We interview a lot, and we focus on our reviews product. We've rolled it out. Like, we've got clients that used to pay $12,000, $15,000, $25,000 a year on their previous reviews product. Not a peep of an issue because we focus on the things they care about. Sure, we don't have all these little weird nuances, these extra this and extra that, but most people don't care because honestly, what they're focused on is now I can take those reviews and do more with it, and it's going to turn my conversion rate up. So the money's made without the extra technology and the bells and whistles. So the way I'm building is very simple. Email, SMS, best in class, everything else for the 80%. And we found that that's working really well for us right now, and we'll continue to do that. There'll always be a place for a best in class tool. And if you decide to use a best in class reviews tool, for example, you don't want to use ours, no problem. Just use the rest of our stack and attach it to it.
Yeah.
So that's how we've taken the product mantra. So you're right, you can't be the best at everything. We understand that. We're not going to be the best at everything, but we're also so friendly in the way that we do it, right? Our reviews cost you $0. So it's like, hey, Eric, you want to use my reviews tool? It's free. It might not have 1-star, 2-star, but I'm going to save you $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, well, I guess I should at least give it a look, right? You're not going to not look at that, right? And then I go, oh, by the way, you can do these 4 things that you couldn't do before now, and these are all conversion rate boosters for your thing. What do you think? Suddenly it's like, I'm saving money, and I can increase my conversions. That's the way I look at it. I look at the use cases, the primary use cases, not all the auxiliary and ancillary things that are fancy and the bells and whistles that we produce. And let's be honest, like what you need, what you get, right? Like that's what you need to focus on. So
I want to add kind of like a beard brand example. What we do with our reviews is we tie them into Slack. So we have a Slack channel, customer review. So we see all the reviews coming in.
Sure.
And that allows my copywriter to be able to get access for email content. And our best performing ads on YouTube right now are ones that have like the right quote, the right review that really touches a nerve with our intended audience. And it's just like, you're not going to get that if you have your reviews plugged in and you never check them. So you have to not just get them, but you have to see them, bring them to mind. From a pricing standpoint, you guys tend to be like more on the value side, right? You're pretty aggressive in your pricing?
Yeah, so it's not that, okay, there's 2 reasons for it. I'll kind of talk about it. It's not that we're technically cheaper in one way or another. It's because we changed the way the model works. And the way I say this is very simple. Klaviyo, for example, which is our competitor, they use an old adage of, they use the old contacts, right? The number of contacts which you pay for. I looked at it and say, my background tells me that contacts is not the number you want to measure off of, because if my brand's 10 years old, I'm going to have a crap ton of contacts, but I only have a certain amount of active users and I only need a certain amount of usage. So we kind of came out in the market and said, we're going to do it based on usage. How many email you need to send, how many SMS you send, you pay what you use. And ultimately that came out and really resonated in the model. Now, pricing wise, is it? I mean, it's hard to compare. It's not apples to apples. We are lower price, but that comes with a really big part of us. The real big part is we don't actually sit on a third party. So we're a tier 1 ESP. We're not tier 2. Tier 2 means that you're sitting on top of a SendGrid or some other Spark, somewhere else, right? You're like on another control and someone else is controlling it. We own our own infrastructure. So what that really means for me is I have fixed costs. And that means that just because you send 10 million or 10 billion emails and I send 100 million emails or whatever the difference is negligible in pennies and dollars for me at the end of the day, as opposed to if I paid a third party where I would have had to pay for that different volume. So because of that, we pass on all those savings. And then on the SMS side, man, dude, it's the most commoditized thing in the world. Nobody's paying anything different. We all pay the same pipers. We all pay the same carriers. There's no better deliverability. Yeah, there's some better tools that you can have and beef up. But the honest answer is it's a race to the bottom. And the market already kind of self-serviced itself on that. I'll tell you, e-commerce is like 3 times cheaper than like a normal market with text messaging. If you go to like easy texting, you're going to pay 0.05 cents a text message. Yeah. And if I said that to you right now, you'd be like, holy crap, I'm not paying that. But in the normal market, that's what they pay. Yeah. It's already been heavily commoditized in this market because of price sensitivity and everything else. So, that side's not really...
Yeah, how does that work? So is it like T-Mobile and AT&T and all that? They set the rates for how much it costs to text?
They set a carrier fee. Right?
Okay.
And then you also have an aggregator fee on top of that. Like an aggregator groups up, so you can't just send it directly to T-Mobile. Okay. You got to go to an aggregator that sends it out to the other ones. Okay. They take their little cut and then they pass it on, and then the carriers get their cut. Right? Yeah. So every message that goes through a carrier earns money off of. It's pretty interesting. It's a really old, monopolized, terrible world in its own way.
Well, you'd think like the technology, like it just seems ridiculous that it costs $0.02 to send a text message to someone.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just people
because it's like, how
bills.
much data is that? That's like nothing.
Well, you got to think about what it is. SMS is not even like voice. It's not even good technology. It's like old tapping and noises and sounds. Like it's old school, right? It's been around forever. It's actually a big problem. I'm actually surprised. SMS as an infrastructure, I don't know how, I mean, at some point it's got to explode at some point, like it's not an infrastructure that was designed for this. There's new technologies. I'm sure you've heard of like things like RCS, which is like rich content. I can't remember. RCS, I forget what it stands for, but RCS is like the future, right? Yeah. It's like the future of SMS, and they want to all go to it, but then people are like, no, thank you. Like the carriers have to agree too.
Yeah. So what about things like...
it's the Android thing, that's what it is.
Yeah, so like WhatsApp, or like people moving to these like messaging, like Facebook Messenger or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can actually market the Facebook Messenger, right? So it's essentially like the same thing as...
There's rules, and they're really finicky about them. That's why people don't participate. I think there's like a company, ManyChat, that runs with Messenger still, and a couple other companies, but it's a really finicky place to play in. But you're right, like you can still play in those chats. We have WhatsApp on our roadmap for early next year, and the reason we did WhatsApp is not like, oh, we want to just add it as another channel. We realized that we solve for international with WhatsApp, because in Europe, they don't use SMS in Europe. They only use WhatsApp, or they use Viber, they use Kayako Talk. It depends what region you go to. Every region uses a different like software almost.
Right.
And I think that what we should be learning in the US, which is interesting, is that we're still on SMS as heavy as we are here versus everyone else. It's probably going to either trend one way or the other. Something's got to change, right? Like we can't all have different habits.
Well, I mean, how do you send a WhatsApp? Do you have to like be connected with them first? Is like, hey, connect to our WhatsApp and then we'll spam you?
Yeah, technically. Yeah, it's technically the same thing, right? You got to opt in or like subscribe and then send them a WhatsApp. It's a little bit different overall in the technology piece because there's like a little bit different rules and cost structures, but it's the same thing. But the big thing is now is it's controlled by Facebook, so even the prices and everything are commoditized already. Facebook has controlled.
Is it cheaper though than SMS?
It can be if you're doing conversational, but no, if not. So if you're doing conversational, what I mean by it is WhatsApp, and I'll give you the simplest thing that makes it really a weird thing. If I send you a WhatsApp and then we have a conversation right there, it only counts as one credit. But if I send you one and then a certain time elapses and then we have another one, then there's another credit. And those credits are a little bit more expensive than what an SMS costs.
Yeah. What do you think Americans are going to do? You think they're just going to stay on SMS?
We're a stubborn group of people, man. I think that this is going to be, the joke that like America is always going to have, I think we're just going to have a lot of adopted technologies like we do today. Like, I'm sure you have friends that are like, hey, WhatsApp me or like Telegram me or like do this. And you're like, God damn it, how do I keep up? They don't do this in the rest of the world. The rest of the world, they agreed on something. We can't agree on shit. Like, there's nothing.
I'm a Signal guy.
See, there you go. See,
guy.
That's what I'm saying. You're a privacy guy, right? You're like, hey, Signal me. But then your friend's like, well, WhatsApp is safer. And then your other friend's Apple guy is going to be like, iMessage is safe. They won't even give it to the FBI. Like, I think we're just going to have a hodgepodge. And us as business owners and people who need to communicate, you're just going to have to be where your customers are at. And you're just going to have to accept that that's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I would like I was having this conversation with someone, like almost your phone number nowadays, because you have to use it for two-factor authentication, for, so many like identity verifications. It seems like it's become like your social security number. Yeah. Like you are tied to your phone number and you cannot change phone number. And
your mobile device and your authenticator and your little remember when we used to carry those little dongles?
I got two in there. Yeah, from my bank.
Most banks have gotten away from them.
Yeah, not the ones I bank with.
That's because you're banking with John's Austin's bank of whatever in the corner.
It's that used car dealer over there.
Give him bags of cash.
Where can people support you, follow you on Twitter, buy your stuff?
Yeah, at Yo Jimmy Kim. YO Jimmy Kim on Twitter. That's where you'll find me most.
And that's JIMMY.
JIMMY. So it's Yo Jimmy Kim. That's where you'll find me. And as you said, my DMs are open. So even if you look strange and you send me a message, I will read them. And if I don't respond, it's probably because you're trying to sell me something. But if you're cool, I'll chat all day long. So
yeah, sweet, man. Well, thanks for coming on the E-commerce Conversations. I hope people enjoyed it. As much as I did. Hopefully you as a guest, this was not like another
No, this is absolutely cool. First of all, being at the studios here and seeing, I don't know, you call this studio,
Beard Brand
headquarters. Cool. I didn't know that you had a real barber shop. Like I went in there and saw people cutting hair and that was cool. And yeah, man, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Cheers. And keep on growing.